Hello there. According to many, unless the Tory Party reinstates Boris Johnson as its leader, it's all over at the next general election. For them, it's Boris or bust. Now, if you haven't already done so, please do subscribe, click the little bell, select all, and then like and comment below. Ever since the moment that Boris Johnson was ousted as the leader of the Tory Party, and therefore as Prime Minister, there have been quiet mutterings that he will somehow rise like a phoenix from the flames of his own making to reign once more. And the chances of this happening will have increased now that more and more people are seemingly more likely to disregard the heinous crime that brought him down, that of being seen to breach the pandemic laws he put in place. Yes, Partygate is receding into the past, it seems, and many people no longer regard it as the Tory leader deal-breaker it once was viewed as. And there is also talk that a CRB has been formed, a committee to reinstall Boris, as well as an all-important hashtag, BBB, Bring Back Boris. Now, according to the Mail, Keir Starmer has been warned by his strategists that a Boris comeback is the biggest threat to him getting into number 10. Private polling studied by Labour High Command suggests that the key swing voters who switched to the Tories in the 2019 general election are increasingly discounting the negative publicity surrounding the Partygate rows, which dogged Mr Johnson's time in office, and are placing more emphasis on his leadership during the COVID crisis, says the Mail report. There is, though, another angle to this. The people have seen what's on offer post-Boris, and maybe they don't like what they see. They've witnessed the bull-in-a-china-shop approach of Liz Truss. She may well be right on the growth strategy front, but the naive way she and her sidekick Kwasi Kwarteng went about it will have put many people off of her. And now they've seen the steady Eddie Rishi Sunak approach, which is more like a net zero WEF Labour stitch-up than a Tory party leader. And then on the opposition benches they are presented with Keir Starmer and Angela Rayner, better known as the two kneelers. And another issue where Boris showed leadership and grasped the nettle was over Ukraine. Whether or not you believe we should support Zelensky in his quest to recover Ukraine totally from Russian occupation, most people would probably agree that Boris was strong in taking a side. But right now, the UK government seems to have gone lukewarm to cold on Ukraine, and the opposition is not exploiting that developing policy vacuum. You have to ask yourself, is the UK now backsliding on Ukraine, and if so, why? Then there's the Brexit angle. It was always said that if Boris goes, Brexit goes. And looking at the Sunak government approach, you can see the Tory commitment to Brexit and an independent UK starting to seriously fray at the edges, with the government starting to talk more warmly about its talks with Brussels over the Northern Ireland Protocol rather than cozying up to the Unionists. After all, the proper name of Sunak's party is the Conservative and Unionist Party. So overall, it might be that more people are now very happy to overlook the Boris flaws to get the Boris leadership and panache back into number 10. But the really big question then has to be asked. Who is going to front up the heavy costs for the inevitable new and even more lavish and gaudy wallpaper for the number 11 flat? And she points to the almost hysterical delight of Labour MPs and BBC presenters on the day Boris was ousted as proof of this. But I would surmise they were delighted because it brought them one step closer to Brussels. He is the most impactful, charismatic, progressive and productive leader the Conservative Party has known since the days of Margaret Thatcher, writes Nadine Dorries, going on to ask the all-important question for Tory MPs. The future of Conservative MPs rests in their own hands, and they have a simple question to ask themselves: do they want to remain as MPs or not? She also goes on to refer to Boris as the Tory Party's political rock star out on the streets. But here's a dose of reality. On current polling, Boris would lose his seat at the next election, and the tide has turned so harshly against the Tories that even a messianic return by Boris would probably have little effect in the less than 2 years left to the next general election, especially if Boris just picked up where he left off with some of his personal failings. And there's also the matter of the Partygate inquiry into Boris that has yet to get fully off the ground. This inquiry could conceivably end up with him being subjected to a recall petition and the loss of his seat anyway. So is this really just wishful thinking by the Boris fan club, believing that there is still a huge crowd of Boris supporters out there that will switch their allegiance back to the Tories if only they could get him back into Downing Street's top address? And then get another 5 years in power? And judging by the negative comments below the Mail articles, I would say that the Boris days are truly over. But that's today, and a week is a long time in politics, and a month can equate to decades. And then there's the ability of the electorate to switch its opinions quite quickly when it wants to. And Tim Shipman, writing in the Times, is asking if the Tigger Johnson is bouncing back towards number 10. And he points to the creation of the Conservative Democratic Organisation, the CDO, that gives Tory grassroots members more say over their leadership, party personnel and MP selections. But those who are involved with the CDO disavow any idea that they are a Boris Johnson front. Anyway, according to his supporters, Boris Johnson will still be holding Rishi Sunak to account over the 3 main issues he cares most about. And those are, firstly, Brexit, secondly, the levelling up agenda, and thirdly, support for Ukraine. And we're told the former Prime Minister is likely to use a speech at the Carlton Club on Tuesday to outline this. Now, insiders say Boris is playing his cards close to his chest on any future comeback. But what does seem to be emerging is a Boris pressure group working to keep the Tory Party honest. And that might be the best they can hope for, and copying the new Nigel Farage approach to politics. But I do take heart from the omission of one issue from the top 3 Boris is looking to protect, those of Brexit, levelling up and Ukraine. Because he hasn't so far included net zero in there, one of his previous biggest obsessions. And finally, when subscribing, please don't forget to press that little bell and also select the all option, or you won't get any notifications when I publish a new video. And thank you all so much for taking the time to watch the show.